Welcome to another edition of the Women in 3D Printing Youth Webinar Series. Women in 3D Printing is a global organization dedicated to promoting, supporting, and inspiring women who are using additive manufacturing technologies. Our mission is to increase the visibility of women in the additive manufacturing industry and encourage more women to use 3D printing technologies. My name is Sanjana Narayanan, and I will be your host. I am a junior at Mission San Jose High School in Fremont, California, and the Youth Ambassador for Women in 3D Printing. I aspire to bring awareness about the various uses of additive manufacturing to students using the webinar series. The Youth Webinar Series is sponsored by XD Innovation, a Dassault Systems partner. XD Innovation focuses on cloud, software, consulting, and value-added services for product development technologies, enabling 3D design, engineering, simulation, data management, process management, quality, and compliance. Our guest today is Pauley, a mechanical engineer at Fathom in Oakland, California. Anne is a mechanical engineer at Fathom. She graduated with a master's in mechanical engineering in 2018 from Penn State University, where she also received a BS in mechanical engineering and a BA in music. Before working at Fathom, Anne completed an internship at Walt Disney World in Orlando, where she worked on mechanical design with the animation systems team that creates animatronic figures for the Disney theme parks. In summer 2017, she interned at Autodesk Pier 9 as the Additive Subtractive Manufacturing Curriculum intern, where she developed CAD and CAM for CNC sample parts. Prior to that, she interned with Autodesk Education as a Fusion 360 catalyst, organizing workshops and outreach initiatives on campus. At Fathom, Anne works on the design and engineering team, a group of engineers and designers that support clients through the product development process from prototyping to production. They specialize in using additive technologies in conjunction with traditional manufacturing methods to drive innovation and leverage Fathom's on-site production facilities for prototyping and production. Hi, Anne. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
So before we dive into the session, can you share your journey into 3D printing, and were there any specific events or opportunities that sparked your interest in the field?
Yeah, so I got into 3D printing while I was still an undergrad in college. So I stayed through undergrad and then continued on to my master's. So I really got into 3D printing starting my senior year of undergrad. And there were a couple things that led me into 3D printing as a hobby and then as a career. And one of them was actually using it in robotics. So starting my senior year and into my master's, I was really focused on robotics. It was the field I was most interested in. And when you're doing prototyping and fabrication for robotics, there are lots and lots and lots of little parts that you need to iterate on very quickly, especially stuff like grabbers and circuit board mounts, all kinds of small parts that are perfect candidates for 3D printing. And so I kind of got into it out of necessity through that because I needed those parts for my classes. I also got into 3D printing through my work with Autodesk. So I started working with Autodesk the summer before my senior year. And so I kind of came to 3D printing that way, but through the CAD side, partially because it was the most straightforward way to actually make the things that I was CADing, but also because I found that the people who were most interested in coming to my CAD workshops and coming to all the Autodesk events that I was coordinating was the 3D printing nerds. So I started doing a lot of workshops with 3D Printing Club and just working a lot with people who were interested in doing research in additive. And then there was also kind of another avenue after I had already gotten into it, where I was working with a small humanitarian startup that was co-founded by 2 people at Penn State called Kajenzi. And we were developing products that could be 3D printed on site in rural areas, primarily the Eastern Africa. Eastern Africa. And so we were not only developing those products, keeping in mind that we were going to be 3D printing them, but we were also building our own 3D printers and trying to make them as low cost as possible so that we could put more printers on site.
That's very cool. And the printers that you were using to print the parts for Eastern Africa, for the organizations there, what kind of like parts were you printing on those printers?
We were doing all kinds of parts. We were doing small plastic parts that may have been maybe disposable for use in hospitals, like small tweezers or specialized little grabbers. The thing that I thought was most interesting was actually the anatomical models, because we were trying to help teaching facilities to better teach medical students by giving them better access to 3D models instead of looking at 2D diagrams.
Interesting. And could you describe your field of additive manufacturing a little more and like what you like about that field?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because, like I said, we work with every one of the traditional silos within engineering. We work with medical and aerospace and automotive and consumer electronics, so many different fields. And that's actually one of the things that makes it interesting, because we work with all of these different fields. We have kind of an insight into all of them, and we can see what's common between them, and also where we can kind of cross-pollinate our manufacturing knowledge across different industries. So within the actual realm of additive, our company works both within the production side and designing for additive. So we have three additive production sites here in the US, here in Oakland, and also Seattle and Heartland, Wisconsin. So we are a service bureau where we work with design teams and engineering teams to print their prototypes and print their small run production parts. But then we also go a little bit beyond just printing parts. We help customers to optimize their parts for 3D printing. So we don't just take a CAD file and we print it. We have an actual person who looks at the file, and if there's something that we think might cause problems with the 3D printing processes, or if a customer is trying to figure out what the best process is, because a lot of people aren't really familiar with all 6 processes that we offer, we give that feedback. And then my team, because we do design work, oftentimes we do applications work where we're using additive in really innovative ways. So a lot of companies are looking to integrate additive more effectively, or do products that are entirely centered around how they use the additive process.
Nice. And being a woman in a predominantly male field, did you face any challenges when you started working in additive manufacturing?
Yes. So since we're on that subject, I want to point out that while I am female, there are a lot of challenges that I didn't have to face. For example, I'm white. I live in a very progressive area here in the Bay Area. Both my parents went to college. And I also work at a small company that happened to have a female co-founder, which is really unusual and amazing within manufacturing. That said, I have a lot of friends who faced really difficult working environments because they were female. For example, I had one of my good friends got really discouraged on her co-op while she was still in undergrad because she worked in a very conservative environment and was a woman of color as well, and faced a lot of overt sexism and racism. But she really knew that she wanted to be an engineer, was able to see past that one environment that didn't fit with her goals. And she's now an engineer at NASA and she loves it, which is really amazing. So yeah, like I said, I think females everywhere do face challenges within engineering and by association within additive as well. It's not always overt like her situation. Part of it is just difficulty with networking. If you think about it, since we were little kids, boys are usually friends with boys, girls are usually friends with girls, and so that kind of translates long term into kind of cultural difficulties for women to advance within the engineering field. For example, I saw a picture of on LinkedIn a couple months ago that really drove it home for me, where a major additive company that we work with had posted a picture of their advisory board, and there were 13 people on the board. They were all male. All but one of them was white. And I think that kind of illustrates that while more and more women are entering the industry, we kind of have a bit of a vacuum of women in executive positions and advisory positions. And the more we can get women into those areas, the more perspectives we'll have within the industry, and the more women will want to enter the industry.
Definitely. And also today, additive manufacturing goes way beyond just printing small parts or even just plastic or resin parts. And the whole idea stems mainly from automotive and aerospace manufacturing, and who wanted to customize their parts for OEMs and supply chain. And there's tremendous growth and innovation in this field. So what is your key message to someone who's just beginning to explore the path of additive manufacturing?
I think the biggest thing I would say about that is additive is moving so fast that when you enter the field, you have to enter with an understanding that there's a lot that you don't know. So it's just like when you see the news, you're looking at things that have already happened. When you see innovations, news articles about innovations within additive, you're looking at things that have already happened, not the things that are currently happening. And so there's a lot of insider knowledge within additive that you don't really know until you enter the field. Which is not really helped by the fact that we like to keep a lot of that knowledge to ourselves. So the ability and interest to learn is really the most important thing when you come into this industry.
Okay. And how do you think students today can learn and grow in the field of additive manufacturing? Because I know that you were first introduced when you were a student. And are there any like specific courses or offerings in the industry that you think can help them?
I think part of it kind of goes back to what I just said. If you see something published in a book or you see something in a lecture, you do have to keep in mind that it's things that have already happened within the industry. So the industry is always ahead of what you're seeing on the internet or what you're seeing in books. And the things that are really constant are things like people skills. Customer service will always be important. Uh, being efficient in your work, having a positive attitude, listening to the people around you, that will always be one of the most important factors to how well you do within your team and within your industry. I think as far as classes go, your traditional engineering classes are still really, really important, particularly within the kind of work that I do and the kinds of things that we produce here with additive manufacturing. Your statics courses, your structural mechanics courses, and your materials courses are extremely relevant to additive, especially because on the materials side, especially, we're developing so rapidly. And for example, when you see a new material coming out, you have to understand what those different properties afford you as far as designs and as far as performance. And yeah, it's really the motivation and the ability to learn quickly is really, really critical within this industry.
Okay. Well, this concludes our conversation with Anne for today. And for more information about women in 3D printing, please visit our website or LinkedIn page to learn more. And we hope to bring you more videos and talks about 3D printing in the weeks to come. And thank you, Anne, so much for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, I look forward to learning more about your experiences, and I hope that we can inspire more women to come into this field.